This Surrealism Landscape Collage art tutorial will show you how to break down the parts of a landscape, think outside the box using Surrealism as our style, and this can be done at home or in the classroom. All you need are magazines, a surface to glue to, and an Elmer's glue stick. If you love learning about art, support this public school teacher's side hustle and hit that subscribe button. Once you have found your magazines, look through them for anything that catches your eye that could represent the part of a landscape. Today I'm focusing on surrealism, and so I'm looking for things that are unexpected, things that I could use for a landscape. My goal is to release my creative mind and have every element be something that it's not. So I'm not looking for mountains, I'm looking for something that could look like a mountain. I'm not looking for a body of water, I'm looking for something that could represent a body of water. So I'm specifically trying to find a sky and background, a horizon line, a middle ground, and a foreground. So I'm gonna go through the images I collected and arrange them in a way that's fun to look at, very surreal, but also captures the essence of depth and perspective of a natural landscape. A collage is where you cut, where you tear, and where you arrange various images together to create a new image on a backing. So this is going to be my sky. I was really drawn to the purple and pink, and I like that it's not a sky at all. And then I found in this dog magazine this beautiful fur, and I thought that would be really cool to represent clouds. It's one of those things that it looks like a cloud, but as you go closer, you say, wait, is that dog fur? And that's the whole inspiration behind my work of art. This is actually a redo of a video I did back in 2020, this surreal landscape collage right here. I was such a baby YouTuber in this video, I didn't even use a microphone, and I wanted to do the same technique, but try and push myself to really embrace the surrealism art movement. Salvador Dali's The Persistence of Memory is probably the most famous image, but you can also look up Hannah Hawke's beautiful collages of people. The whole idea was to juxtapose images and ideas that didn't make sense, that couldn't happen in the natural world, that were beyond reality as we know it. So for now, my sky looks pretty natural, right? I live in Oklahoma, so I've seen skies that look like this for sure. So I do want it to look like a landscape. I don't want to lose that natural look, but I do want to focus on everything being unexpected. And my personal rule for myself is if it's something that it actually is, I have to pick something else. You'll see as we continue. So for this technique, I'm using a tear and overlapping technique. I love doing this for skies because the raw edge gives it a really beautiful organic quality. Paper makes it look like it's clouds, and this is a really great technique for a sky. I will be using scissors for most of the rest of it, but I really love how this gives it just that rolling sky, beautiful cloud-like look. Now I'm going to use the clouds from my dog fur, and I need to kind of blend that in naturally. So I'm using similar shapes than what I tore, but I am making them a little bit smaller, and I will practice overlapping so that it doesn't look just stuck on there, but that the clouds are a part of the sky. Now I realize this is an obvious statement, but glue is sticky, so you will see me use not my finger but the top of the glue stick to smooth down each of the pieces as I glue them. You can also use a paper towel and just be mindful of what surface you're gluing on. I'm doing kind of a direct glue approach with the sky because it's not the most precise. There will be certain areas where I want something exactly in a certain place, but this is a little organic. It's kind of flowing and moving, and I'm making decisions as I tear, as I glue, and as I see how the colors kind of pop together. You might also notice that I've sped things up here. Since it's a lot of repetition, I have sped this up to double time so we can move on from our sky and eventually get to our horizon line. Any awkward edges or color transitions that I have here will be remedied by these beautiful white clouds that I'm going to play around with placement. And you might notice that my edges are very jagged, they're kind of sticking off the edge, and I'm going to trim that once I'm satisfied with my sky. I like to kind of trim a section at a time, just so it has a feel of it being finished and organized, because a collage, as you'll find out if you're doing this, is very messy, and it's difficult to kind of clean up your area because you're cutting, you're reaching for things, and so cleaning up as you go will help you not lose your elements. Now I'm going to move on to the other parts of the landscape, and I found this absolutely stunning green dress that I knew if I cut it out the right way, it would look like beautiful grassy rolling hills or green mountains. And I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with these. It would make a great horizon line. It could make a great foreground because of the bright color. It'd make a great middle ground too. So sometimes I collect images not knowing what I'm going to do with them, but I do love the beautiful contrast of color. The green and pink just work really well together. So I just need to make some decisions, and I'm going to go ahead and cut out kind of a mountainous look, and then I can decide later what part of the landscape I will use it for. So with a collage, sometimes my students say, oh, I'm limited to what's in the magazine. And I challenge you, think of it like a scavenger hunt. Think of it as pushing your creativity. It's not like I can just paint it exactly or draw it exactly the way I want it to look. I have to use the resources in front of me and have to then juxtapose and create a collage. So it's definitely an exercise in creativity, ingenuity, and just finding things and making it work, using images that are given to you, but using them in a new way. That's the beauty of a collage. So you might notice a theme with the next few items that I'm cutting out. I have that delicious piece of ham, and then I have this sweet potato souffle. What I like about it is that the color and the texture very much looks like a part of a landscape. For example, look at this mountain pie crust. It is a pie crust, but the texture of it, the color is very natural, so it's something unexpected, but visually tricks your eye to being like, oh, look at those mountains. Wait, is that a pie crust? So I really scored with the food magazine. Also, I just love any food images. They make me hungry. I just love food. And I thought that this could be a really playful way to create a landscape. The green dress is very nice. You can't even tell what it is. And then the food elements are just really fun. I felt like I needed some water, and so this is from an interior decorating magazine. It is an aloe vera plant, and I thought the cool vertical lines, the cool bluish color really resembled water. The vertical lines make it look as if it's naturally water. The change in value, light and dark areas, also give it like a wave effect. And I thought that the color really cut against the sky. I love the idea of the mountains, but I thought it was too warm. It didn't pop as much as I wanted it to. I really like it next to the blue, but I also love the idea of having my horizon line be a pie crust. So I think this is a good way to kind of make that happen. The pie crust doesn't get lost in the warm background because the blue contrasting in the front kind of anchors it, and it gives it more depth to my landscape. One thing to keep in mind is although there's parts of the landscape like a horizon line, middle ground, and foreground, layering those areas will make your landscape look even more dynamic, interesting to look at, and give you more space to play with. So I have a general idea. I don't love the foreground yet, but with a collage, you always glue back to front. So glue your sky, then your horizon line, middle ground, and foreground. And since I have those things done, I'm gonna go ahead and glue. Now, I have a fail here. I just said to glue back to front, but I skipped my mountains, my pie crust mountains I love so much, and just went ahead and glued down the water part. So you're gonna see, it's not impossible if you make a mistake. It's annoying, but it's certainly something you can fix. So I'm gonna kind of tear annoyingly. It kind of rips, it curls up. It's not perfect, but I'm not giving up on my pie crust horizon line. So the horizon line is the area where the sky meets the land. So which is my horizon line? I would say both, because on the left-hand side, the sky meets the water. On the right-hand side, it meets the pie crust. Back to where they're pretty much gonna go. I'm having some issues, of course, with the area I glued too soon. So I'm just gonna add some glue there. And then luckily I have more pieces of that plant, and I can go back and kind of cut some more areas and layer, and it'll give the ocean more depth. Nothing I can't fix. One thing I love about this artwork is if you're a teacher or an art student, this is so inexpensive. These magazines were free. Most of them are donated to my classroom or randomly sent to my house. You might not have magazines. I know that's kind of like a old school retro, which makes me feel old, but you know, kind of a technique. You could certainly do this digitally. But I love how inexpensive this is. You just need backing like cardstock, glue sticks, and magazines. And I think this would be a really fun thing to do digitally as well. So this green looks really awesome next to the blue water because the blue water is a little bit more, it's a little bit darker and it has a little bit more kind of neutral color scheme, and the vibrancy of this green and just the folds of the fabric just mimic landscape material or a landscape so well. I'm just so lucky that I found this, and I'm going to piece it together. And this is officially the middle ground. So you could say the horizon line is the water, the horizon line is the pie crust mountains, and then I have rolling green hills, kind of like a foothill you can see cutting up on the right hand side. Now, for the foreground, I'm playing around with these other pieces of food. So maybe it's a ham hill or a sweet potato plain. And I like that they're kind of like an orangey brownish color. It mimics the mountains in the back. It's very natural to what a landscape actually looks like. And then there's glimpses where you're like, wait, is that butter? And so it's another playful approach while still looking like the parts of the landscape. If you go so abstract or so surreal that it's unrecognizable, that's fine if that's what your goal is, but I'm trying to really set the tone with the landscape so I can put some surreal subject matter in it. So I'm just cutting, gluing, and arranging my parts of the foreground, which are the front part of the landscape that's closest to you, where the largest items and objects and subject matter would be. I'm going to trim my edges here using the back so I can see exactly where to cut. So I have a really clean and concise viewpoint, and then I'm going to move on to my subject matter. Subject in art is the who or the what or the topic that the artwork is about. And yes, a landscape is a complete work of art all on its own. In fact, when I'm not teaching, plein air landscape painting is my absolute passion and what I do most when creating my personal art. But today, I'm focusing on subject matter that I can set in my landscape and interact in a surreal way. So I am finding objects and I'm going to use them to be things that they're not. These cat eyes really caught my eye, see what I did there? Because of how large they are, and I thought they looked animal-like in their own way. So I was thinking like maybe a fish, but then I thought they were too big for the landscape back there. So now I'm seeing some sort of strange bird, and this asparagus might make a nice like little nest area. And then I found some broccoli. So I'm putting a little bit more detail in the foreground because things in the foreground are closest to you. So there's the most detail. Technically, the color would be brighter and more saturated, but we're not following those rules today. And the objects would be larger because they're closer up. If these birds were all the way back in the middle ground, so the green area, they'd be smaller. And if they were flying over the water, they'd be smaller still. So they're going to be standing around my ham sweet potato foreground. This little key I thought looked like a beak and a head. Luckily, I found two of them, so that was lucky that I can have surreal elements, but they're matching. So when you see it, your brain is going to see some sort of bird creature, even though every single part of it is made from something that it's not. That was difficult when I got to the feet, so I'm going to kind of glue this one down up higher so I want him to look like he's standing. And I actually found a lot of bird feet in my National Geographics, and I really wanted to cut them out and use them. Then I remembered it's supposed to be surreal, beyond reality. What would not happen, could not, or should not happen in the natural world. So I need to find something that is not bird legs or even legs at all. I was thinking, okay, maybe human feet. But if I use human feet or human legs, they're still legs. And so I wanted to push myself to think even more outside the box. And so as you've been watching me do, I've been cutting out the parts of the watch. Why do I keep making little puns like that? To create the bird leg of the bird that's standing, and those cute little watch extras I thought looked like little birds. So I'm using the parts of the clock, the parts of the watch to create the legs and the like little baby birds in the nest. Asparagus. Went ahead and cut it out and put it in its mouth, which was lucky because I only had one set of watch legs. So I'm going to cover up the bottom of the bird and where those little baby birds are with that asparagus that I found earlier. And I like that it relates to what's in the other bird's mouth, like he's either feeding his family or they're building the nest. And I think that's a really fun subject matter that I didn't plan on. I did not have a plan. I just looked through the magazines and see like what they offered. I'm going to add one more little area in the sky because I felt like I wanted more white. So when you're almost done with your collage, ask yourself, okay, what are some things that I can add for detail? What are some things I can do to push my craftsmanship or attention to detail? And if I had more time, I really would love to add more detail to the birds themselves, but it's after 4 and I'm tired. I want to go home. So I'm going to do one last trim of the areas that I added last. And I'm going to call this Surrealism Landscape Collage finished. Thank you so much for sticking around and making art with me. And if you're interested in more tutorials, check these out. Find me on Instagram at thatartteacher_Machado to see what my students are up to in my classroom. And my website, thatartteacher.com, has free full-length lesson plans, student examples, everything I use in my classroom.